How do you do, drummers and sisters? How you doing? Hope you're staying safe at home. Today I'm going to show you how to play the full song Surrender by Cheap Trick, drummed by Bun E. This was requested over on my Facebook page. And what I've got for you is all 4 pages of the full song. I'm going to teach you every single bar from start to finish. And you can download this PDF drum chart for free from my website. You'll find a link beneath this video. So have this printed out in front of you as we go through this together. So we've got the song starting, the 134 BPM, and Bunny comes in with the first drum fill. 1 and 2 and 3 and the 4 and the 1. Very simple drum fill to start off with. 3 and the 4 and the 1. 1, 2. And we come in with our first crash cymbal. And throughout this song, everything is being played on the ride cymbal. It's really hard to hear in most parts of the song whether he's actually going to the crash cymbal or just coming back to the ride cymbal and hitting it a little bit harder. So you could be mistaken if you heard rather than. So with the crash cymbals in this song, and I'm sure I've missed a couple, I've mistaken them for a ride cymbal rather than the crash cymbal. Use your own common sense when it comes to a crash cymbal. Perhaps play a crash cymbal after each of the drum fills, that would make sense. But I don't think Bunny does that every time. I think sometimes he generally just goes back to the ride cymbal. So a little point of interest there. It's not important, but just be aware of that. So I'm hearing a crash cymbal at the beginning. And then we're into our first groove. And really there's only 2 different drum beats that Bunny plays. We've got the first drum beat there. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 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 1, 3 and 1. And then in the next bar is the other variation of the drum fill he plays a lot. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. I'm just looping it. And 1, 2 and 3 and 4 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 and 1. And it's really just a combination of those 2 drum beats that make up the majority of the song. I just loop those 2 bars around. So make sure you got them comfortable, and really it's just the drum fills then you've got to work on. So going up to bar 1, 2, 3, 4 of that line, that first line, the intro I've called it. Again, I think I'm hearing another crash cymbal. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. And then Bunny does this quite a few times in the song, and it's very low in the mix, but this first time it's kind of, it's obvious, you can hear it. We get this pattern, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, that bass drum pattern. But we get a little snare drum note on the E of beat 3, just before the bass drum on the ands. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and another cool drum beat to practice on its own. Now later in the song, I'm sure he plays a few more of those in the same place, but he plays them a little bit quieter as a ghost note. Not quite as quiet as you think, because the rest of the drums are so loud you wouldn't hear a ghost note, but you can hear something. So it's kind of played. That last one was a little bit louder, but there you go. Use your common sense when it comes to that. If I was playing this song, whenever I see that snare drum on the E, I play it all the same volume. Maybe maybe what I do is I play the backbeat as or beats on 2 and 4 as a rim shot, and then just play the snare drum on the E normally. Something like that. But you can work on that yourself, have fun with the dynamics. Then on to the next line, we get 2 of those drum beats. I won't go through each of the bars every time because I've really just shown you the 2 drum beats. But look at the second bar, we get an extra snare drum note at the end. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 into beat 1 of that next bar. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1. He then comes down to this really cool, very, very simple but very powerful 2-bar drum fill. It takes a lot of guts to play something as simple as this, but as solid as this as well. I think it works really well. It's great fun to play along to. From the from that second bar we get 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. The snare drum roll starts on the and a beat 2, and Bun E's playing the bass drum on all 4 beats. 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and then it goes into the next bar the same. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So we get this really long drum fill. Let's loop bars 2, 3 and 4. Not too many times, but here we go. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And am I playing bass drums on 8th notes there accidentally? I think I was, but that's a good point, a good moment to make that point, is that sometimes for these drum fills, Bun E might be playing 8th notes underneath rather than just playing 1 and 2. He might be playing 1 and 2 and for those drum fills where I'm going to be showing it in a song where there is just a quarter note being played, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you wanted to play 8th notes underneath it instead, then that will work just as well. It's really just to create a pulse underneath the drum fill, and it can be quarter notes or 8th notes, up to you. But Bun E's just playing quarter notes. So I'll play this up to speed for you in a moment. That whole second line, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and the 1 and the 2 E and the 3 E and the 4 E and the 1 E and the 2 E and the 3 E and the 4 E and the... Again, don't worry too much if you start playing 8th notes instinctively. So let me go on to verse 1. And I haven't written the crash cymbal on B1 because I don't think there is one. I think it goes straight to the ride cymbal. And we've really got that one drum beat being played for the first 2 lines. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and simple as that for those 2 lines. Before we go into the third line of verse 1, let me just play up to speed what we got so far. So I'll play the whole of the intro and then the first 2 lines of verse 1 up to speed without the microphone on so you can hear just the drums. Here we go. So then for the third line, just for bar 1, he plays this drum beat once. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. So he plays that variation of the drum beat just once, and then the rest of those 2 lines, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So again, just using those 2 drum beats. Then on to chorus 1, I think it goes into a crash cymbal, and he mainly sticks with, for the first 2 bars, 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1. Bars 3 and 4 goes back to 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Second line, again, I'm not going to waste your time now by going over each of those bars. We've talked about all those variations. Let's just go to where things are different. So the end of that second line, bar 4, I think there's a crash cymbal. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and he plays this and 4 on the snare drum. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. The last line of chorus 1, notice there's only 3 bars there. He then plays 1, 2 and 3 and 4 ands. So and 4 ands. Bar 3, 2 is just basic groove. And then bar 4 is the first of these rather syncopated drum fills he does. This is a really cool idea. So without the bass drum underneath it, because that would make it more complicated for some people if they've never done this before, we're playing 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So what's happening in the first part of the bar is he's playing 2 16th notes, leaving 1 as a rest, and then repeating that. So it's actually a group of 3 notes, including the rest, the 16th note rest, so it moves across the beat in a cool way. You get this movement of 2 notes going across the beat. So 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and he resolves it with 4 E and a, simple 4 snare drum notes for the last beat of the bar. So with the bass drum underneath, 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and how the bass drum pops through in different places. And I'm playing right, left, right, left, right. I recommend you stick with that sticking because it makes sense. Your right hand is always coming down on 1 and 2 and your left hand is always playing the E and the It just makes sense. You get used to You get used to that and it feels comfortable after a while. 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 E, a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a... It's a lot of fun to play that. Now, if you wanted to play eighth notes underneath it, and I won't keep mentioning it, but you could play... If you wanted to instead, absolutely fine, but I don't think Bun E is. I think he's just playing quarter notes. So let's now hear those two lines, lines 2 and 3, the last two lines of chorus 1, up to speed. So on to page 2, bridge 1, and we just got variations to the drum fills. I think I hear a crash cymbal, variations to the drum beats. I think I hear a crash cymbal on bar 3. Second line, we've got the same last 3 bars as we talked about already. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and a 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Again, it goes. I don't think it goes into a crash. I think it goes to the ride cymbal. So verse 2. Just combinations of the drum beats we've talked about. The second line, though, there's a little surprise drum fill, which doesn't repeat in later verses or earlier verses. So the end of line 2, he's playing this. 1, 2, and a 3, and a 3, but then straight into a roll after that 3. 3 E and then up to your highest tom, 4 E and just down to the next highest tom, or your lowest tom if you wanted to. 4 E and So 1 and 2 and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. And you can leave out the bass drum or play eighth notes underneath it if you wanted to instead. It's low in the mix, but you're hearing 4 E and a or 4 E and a on the recording. 1, 2 and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. 1, 2 and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. Let's make a 2-bar loop, just as a good way of practicing things. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and a 3 and a 4 E and a 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and a 3 and a 4 E and a 1. So now it goes, next 2 lines, standard stuff. Chorus 2 then, more of the same grooves, and then the last 2 lines, bar 4 is the same as our previous chorus. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and, exactly the same. Second line, I think he plays a crash on beat 1 and it's the same and 4 and at the end. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Bar 2, exactly the same as our previous chorus, except there's a crash cymbal on beat 1. And then the exact same drum fill taking us out with all the variations we've talked about already. Let's go on to page 3 then. Bridge 2. And first 2 bars of grooves, and then this is my favourite part of the song, this drum fill here. This takes what we've talked about, the grouping of 3, 2 notes plus a rest, over 2 bars. And when you first hear it, you're like, when's this going to end? Where's he going with this drum fill? Very, very simple idea, but used over 2 bars to really sort of sell it. But the way it starts is with a crash cymbal. So we get 1 E, 1 E and a 2. It's exactly the same as playing 1 E, it's just we're playing 1 E. So without the bass drum underneath it, we get 1 E, a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a 1 and a 2 E and 3 E and a 4 and a 1. And it resolves nicely with the and a 1. If you're keeping in time with the 16th notes, you'll come out nicely. So with the bass drum underneath, 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E, a 1 and a 2 E and 3 E, a 4 and a 1. Let me just make a note there. I've missed out a bass drum there on beat 4. You won't see that, but there we go. So there's a bass drum on beat 4 as well. Just basically maintain the quarter note with the bass drum. If you wanted to play eighth notes, absolutely fine. So I'll play this up to speed for you in a moment. Let's go to the next line. And the last 3 bars of line 2, exactly the same we talked about already. On to the second bar. So now let's hear both lines of bridge 2 up to speed. So for verse 3, more combinations of drum beats. Look at the end of line 1 and 3 though, bar 4 for lines 1 and 3. We've got the extra snare drum note coming in. This time in the song, it is a little bit quieter than we had at the beginning, so it's more of a ghost note, quieter, but you could play it full volume, absolutely fine. So we get that drum beat. Being played at the end of line 1 and 3. Line 4, we've got a very similar idea from the end of line 3, bar 3. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and a 1, and a 1. Starting on the and of 1 again with that drum fill bar, except this time, instead of playing it all in the snare drum, he plays and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4E, and a. So we get and at the beginning on the snare drum, then 4 here, 4 here, 4 here. It could be 4, 4, 4. It doesn't matter what toms you choose, but on the recording, I think he uses the same pitch tom twice. So bars 3 and 4 looped. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and a 1, and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4E, and a 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and a 1, and a 2E, and a 3E, and a 4E, and a 1. Almost missed it. So on to chorus 3, more of the grooves, and the end of line 2, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Next line, same 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and we've heard previously. And then for the first time in the song, and he sort of does this towards the end of the song now, for bar 2, we get an extra bass drum note falling on beat 3. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Then for this drum fill, very, very popular common drum fill this. Again, it's using a group of 6 notes. You just don't play 6 notes because one of those notes is rested, and you're playing a group of 6 across the bar in a cool way. So we get 1E and a 2, the E is rested, 1E and a 2E, then and a 3E and then 4E and a to resolve it. Bad boys! 1E and a 2, and a 3E and 4E and a 1. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1E and a 2, and a 3E and 4E and a 1. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1E and a 2, and a 3E and 4E and a. And of course, play all the 8th notes underneath it if you wanted to. So next page, page 4, last page, and we've got bridge 3, and he goes into it, more bars of groove. Bar 3, it was hard to hear on the mix. He plays something, and I think he plays a snare drum on the of beat 2. 1, 2, and a 3, and 4, and. But it could be a tom. 1, 2, and a 3, and 4. But because the rest of the band is so loud, the ride cymbal's so loud in the mix, I couldn't quite work out what he's playing, on what surface he's playing, sorry. But he's playing something there on the of beat 2. It could be a tom, could be a snare drum. I can't be 100% sure. You can choose. It's not a problem. 1, 2, and a 3, 4, and. Then for that last bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and he fills in all the gaps between the snare drums with the bass drum. Next line, bar 3, going into bar 4, and a 1. We talked about that idea, 1, a 1, and then and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, just one bar of that drum fill, taking us into chorus 4. So let's go back to page 3. I'm going to take you from the second line of chorus 3 all the way through bridge 3 into the beginning of chorus 4. Here we go. So for chorus 4, we're going to go straight to the last bar of the first line where he's playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and look out for those extra bass drum notes. Same with line 2, bar 2, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And then bar 4 is cool, we get this pattern being played. And I think he plays these notes with the bass drum at the same time. It could be just a snare drum and ride, but I think he plays it with the bass drum. We get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Weird way to play it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. and. That might surprise you, that and there on the and of 2. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So let's loop 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Next line, line 3. Bar 2 has the extra bass drum notes. Bar 3 goes into bar 4, the same as we talked about already. But this is a weird drum fill. Again, a little bit hard to hear on the recording. I think he's playing this. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. Without the crash cymbals, he's playing 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. But he's included the crash cymbal or ride cymbal, can't be 100% sure, within that drum fill. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. If you want to leave out those crashes, fine. You could just play. That'll work just as well. It'll still be in time with the song. It'll still be in time with the rhythm. But bars 3 and 4. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. And I'll play up to speed in Mo. Next line, line 4. We've gone over all these sections. Next line, look at the end of that line. We get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. He's pumping the bass drum all the way through, and the snare drum's playing 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and. Second to last line, going into bar 4 is the same and, or it's not though, is it? So we get, for the end of bar 3, and straight down to the snare drum, and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. It's that same rhythm we talked about before. So it's 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. And I just wanted to play 8th notes on the bass drum. Benny might be playing 8th notes on the bass drum at this point in the song. Again, it's low in the mix. So if you want to do, absolutely fine. Sorry I've mentioned that so many times now. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1. 1, 2 and 3 and 1 E and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. Come on, Rob. So then the last line I've written here, note fade out, so where the song starts to fade out, and you just hear the last 4 bars. I think he plays something in the 4th bar, but it's so quiet at that point I couldn't work out what he was playing. So before we finish, let's play from the second line of chorus 4 all the way to the end of the song, so we get all those nice tasty drum fills up to speed in context. Here we go. So there you go. Got any questions about any of that? Feel free to email me, rob@drumtotheword.com, and I'll be happy to help as much as I can. Don't forget to download the free PDF that came with this lesson. All 4 pages of the song fully transcribed for you. And then while you're at my website, you might want to consider signing up to become an online member. And what I offer for $97 is a full year's online access to every single full video song lesson I've ever recorded and transcribed. And that's coming up to 450 famous and popular songs on the website already. Just like this lesson, I take you from the start of the song to the end. Every single bar, you get the fully transcribed PDF drum chart. And like I say, almost 450 famous and popular songs up on the website already. As a thank you for signing up, I'll give you even more. I'll give you hundreds of little videos teaching you many famous drum beats, fills, and even drum solos. I'll give you 3 ebooks I've written over the years containing hundreds more famous drum beats, fills, and solos. And then over the year of your subscription, you also gain instant online access to all the new material that I upload for my members. And I record new lessons every week unless I'm ill or on holiday. So you've got lots of cool stuff to look forward to over the year of your subscription. And if you want to help influence what songs get chosen, then please go over to my Facebook page. You'll see that I every month or so do a post where I ask for song suggestions. My followers then get to post their suggestions beneath it, and then others get to vote on them, thumbing up them. Excuse me, that sounds weird. And the more popular the selection, the song, then it's more likely to get chosen for a future lesson. So go over to my Facebook page if you want to help influence what songs get chosen. But if you've got any questions about any of that, feel free to email me, rob@drumstheword.com. Stay safe until our next drum lesson together. Wash your hands, toodle pip, and happy drumming to you.